Welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast, your weekly dose of strategies and mindset tools to build a business in alignment with your purpose and to get you playing a bigger game. I'm your host, Nicole Nicholette. Hello, and welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Nicholette, and today I am here. I'm very excited for this because I get to have one of my very, very good friends on the show. I always like when I get to have friends on the show. And Nicholette happens to be someone who's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited to introduce you all to her. Nicholette von Reiche, she is a healer. She's a business sorceress and a strategist. I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her. She's a 6'3" sacral Mani-Gen, and we're going to talk about her journey just in all the things. And I know that this is going to be really interesting for you because she pulls from all of these different places. She pulls from the energetic side and also a very strategic, structured side, and brings them all together in the most beautiful way. So I think she's like kind of an embodiment of what the mission of this show is. So I'm so excited to introduce her to you, Nicholette. I am so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, my friend. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
So tell everybody a little bit about you. I always let the guest kind of just give the audience a little something that I don't capture in that intro.
Yeah, so I come from a background of being business strategist, so business coaching and design, and then more recently combining that with healing and energetics. So such a beautiful companion, this work, especially now when I work with my clients to really help them turn their passions and their soul at work, to help them deepen their potency and create a life and business that flow more effortless. We were talking a little bit earlier before the show how, we get to this point where we're like, there has to be more. I got here a specific way, but I want to change the way that I go forward. What more is there? How much deeper can I, search within myself? Who am I? What are my purposes? How do I bring all of me forward? And that's one of the things that I think I'm really good at, is helping read the energetics, bringing the healing, bringing the strategy, having like my foot in both. And I think what I love the most is my clients get really clear about where they want to go, and then we're able to heal on our way there. So anything that comes up that would have them sabotage or change their mind, we're able to just move through things so much faster.
And that really is the key, that the journey is going to look, it can look really messy. And where we hear people say all the time, I'm stuck. And you're stuck because there's something internal typically that you can't get over. And it can feel like an external thing. It can feel like, well, I don't have the team, or I don't have the resources. And it's more about, the way that you're approaching bringing on those resources or getting the help that you need is actually part of what's standing in the way. What's making you afraid of taking this step? What is making you afraid of that, the end result won't come? And that's how everything does come back to, in my mind, into the energetics. So the fact that you're there to heal along the way and to clear out those roadblocks that come up, it's just such a priceless benefit that you add with that.
Yeah, it's so magical. And what I find is that we don't always even know where we're blocked, or that we repeat the same patterns, and we're really able to go into like subconscious. What did we put there that we're not even aware? Beliefs that we took on, that get in the way of us really being able to make the impact and the change that we're really craving to our core. And being able to like transmute that and heal it. And what is also so beautiful is we focus on the business, but inevitably we move to the personal. And my coach always says, when you heal for yourself, you are healing your family, you're healing your ancestors. And I've seen that firsthand, that me doing the work on myself and my clients doing their work, it softens and shifts everything else in their business. And it's the work we want to do the least, but it has the most profound effect. It really collapses time in a way.
I couldn't agree more. And it changes our clients too, because we work so closely with people. If you're a coach or if you're a service provider where you're working with people, your energy affects them. And
Mhm.
if you haven't healed something, and then you are effectively, you can be working out of a wound, which you don't intentionally hurt somebody else or put that on somebody else, but you can be just kind of infecting the environment with whatever it is that you haven't been willing to look at,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you haven't been willing, where haven't you been willing to go?
Yes.
um, so I love that. And I think this is where you and I are very similar in the work that we do, where we do have that focus of, you come at it from much more of a healing modality of spiritual healing. And I have the tapping and the work that I do with human design. But it really is about, looking at it really holistically at your business, and not looking at it just like, well, here's the strategy. And I want to talk about that because I want to show everybody the arc a little bit here of where you were, like where you've come from to where you are now. You were very traditionally more of like a strategist to begin with, and providing deliverables. So designing gorgeous websites and gorgeous templates and these beautiful designs for people, including myself. Um, I've used lots of your stuff throughout the years, and now you've gone to this to where you're still doing some of that, but now you're just incorporating more and more energy over time. Can you talk about that journey a little bit, and how you see yourself as different from where you were a couple of years ago to where you are now?
Yes. So I think a good way to put it to us was very, and still a little bit too much in my mind, very systematized, very organized. And I feel like Source came in and said, we're going to shake everything upside down because that's what's needed. And in life, sometimes we need big things to happen to really course correct and go a different direction because we don't get the nudges. We're like, no, I'm going to keep doing this. It's
Mm,
working. It's fine. I'm comfortable. It's why fix something that's not broken, right? But you're not really living out your full potential, which is totally fine. We always have a choice. But then at some point it's like, but you came here to do something specific, and you're so close, like you need the nudges. It's like, and you can always learn those lessons again in another life, is what I believe, but that's going to be so much harder because you keep piling. And so where I am now versus a year ago was just completely different. And I feel like what happened is my business was completely turned upside down, and I've built back up all from the ground up. And healing was introduced to me, and someone had pointed out what you do with your clients is you're actually reading their energetics. You're noticing what's lighting them up. You're noticing when they're tapping into information that they're doing in their business because they've been told to, or
mm,
because they really feel they should because this person is successful, and therefore if they follow those steps they will be successful too. And then you introduce new concepts to them based on how you're able to read them in their business, and make suggestions and get them on the right path. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do that, but I don't charge for any of that. And then I started charging for coaching, and as synchronicity, the next step comes and the next step comes. And then I was introduced to my spiritual mentor, who said she's going to help me learn how to read the Akashic records, how to do Akashic healing. And I was like, and she said, you can read their records for people's businesses. And I was like, oh, blew my mind. I was like, that makes so much sense. Because if I can actually tell my clients why they get stuck at specific things, I can see a variation of their purpose,
mm.
and their business, and why they're so drawn to do the work that they want to do, but they keep getting stuck in specific places. And we keep like repeating. But if we can access that information and work with source, that's just a whole different level. And then so when I started doing this healing work with my clients, um, it just brought a whole different dimension to our sessions. And so now I do the alternating strategy and healing. And they're like, they love that they get to play with me in both because I
Mm-hmm.
get both so amazingly well. But we're able to like change their vibration so much faster now. And
Mm-hmm.
for me in my business, what that's looked like, we were talking about this because I still feel like I have one foot out, one foot in, like kind of coming out of the spiritual closet, but still not.
Yeah.
But I never would have brought in the word sorceress or a healer in, or energetics even, which is so funny. My first course was eating for energy for moms. My second course was style your energy, which was like, style the space in
Mm-hmm.
your home. And now I'm like, energy is everywhere. And I'm like, there's always those themes. And we're talking about like the brand and the styling is always also there. And I do love helping my clients notice the beauty that's in their lives and in their business and bringing that out. So somehow it comes full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And I do believe that, we shake off and I want to ask you about how human design has played a role for you, because you're, like I said at the beginning, you're a 6'3" sacral manifesting generator, which like that's a lot. The lot of energy. But like I do believe that and like I did a whole program on called Becoming that was really about, really coming back to who you've always been. That I've always had this feeling like it's, and I always say, like, it's not about addition. It's not about adding anything more. It's about taking away all the things that are covering up who you've always been. And usually, especially for generators and manifesting generators, it's the shoulds. Well, I should do it this way. This person told me it would work this way. I heard someone made $1 bajillion in 3 hours doing it this way. So we go that way because we think it's the fastest way to what we want, to the end result. And I'm curious for you if, and I'll speak from my experience, part of it for me was, I chased the money for a long time. Like, this is how I'll make the money. This is how I'll get to those, 10K months, then 20K months, then 40K months, and then, the 100K month, consecutive 100K months, chasing that. It wasn't until I let all of that go that it actually started to flow, and I could start removing the things. And those were, most of my shoulds had to do with money and following that trail of like, well, this is how I'll get the money, and this is how I'll get the recognition, and this is how I'll get, I'll get to where I want to go. This is how I'll get my success. And I'm curious if that aligns with you at all. Was there anything that you had to let go of in order to, or did it just kind of, did the big turn in your business come that forced your hand, or did you have to kind of let go of anything that you were chasing in order to relax enough to be like, I'm going to let the energetics guide me?
I got there eventually. At first, I think I was chasing money, and then I was chasing time freedom. And then I was constantly in like, it's this or that. And so if I had
Mm,
time freedom, oh, now you have the money, you don't have the time freedom. Now you have the
yeah.
time freedom, you don't have the money. And then
Yep.
there's also like, you want to enjoy your purpose, but when you're constantly stressed out, you can't fully really be connected to your purpose because you're like, gotta pay the bills, or I don't have the time. And you're just constantly in that stressed out, overwhelm kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when I started learning more about my design, I was like, I get to have them both. How am I standing in my way to have both? And I was like, first focus on the time freedom, like true freedom. Like I can step away from my business and it's not going to fall apart. I can have Fridays off and have my sacral days,
Yeah.
and just have fun really tuning into what is my yes, what is my no. Because there was a point where I didn't know even the difference, like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a no, but I kind of have to do it. And must be nice not to, but I should, like you get in your head about it. And then I think I got to the point where I was like, no amount of the freedom that I want or the money that I want is going to be created in that lack energy and that push
Mhm.
energy. And when I think I surrender to, and that's hard. That word was so hard for me. I feel like I heard so many people say surrender, trust. And I was
Mm.
like, yeah, easy, so easy, easy said than done. But when I actually allowed myself to be like, what does that look like for me to surrender? What does that look like for me to trust that the next step will reveal itself? Things did become easier and I could breathe more and I was more excited again. And from there, it's like the right pieces just align. Like for me, not having all of the answers, all of the steps laid out was so hard. If I don't have that, then what am I doing? I'm just going to fall around and, that might be frowned upon. I need to know. And now I'm like, I don't need to know everything. And that's kind of fun because it's like, we course correct. At this point, we've built up so much experience that we can handle a little bit of being thrown off course and then coming back. And that's like we said, like when you're thrown off course, that's when there's a lesson for you. That's where there's something for you to heal and work through. And now I feel like when I see those, instead of being like the easier thing is to ignore it, I'm like, okay, let's go full on steam ahead into this. There's a nugget there for me.
And I love kind of how you were putting that, the surrender, because I think most people, including myself, misinterpret that word as like giving up. It almost feels like surrender is like, I just don't care anymore. I'm letting go. And you're letting go of control and
The need
energetic.
to control. Yeah.
Yeah. The need to control. You're saying like for me, the surrender is, it is that deepening of trust. It is that like, I don't need to know how, and I do surrender to the process. Like I trust that this is, no matter how much I thought about this, I'm going to probably get it wrong. Like if I think about it and I plan it out so meticulously and I have it all lined up, then I'm leaving no space for magic. I'm leaving no space for the universe to come in and be like, oh, but let me show you how you could do this easier. Let me
Yes.
show you how you could do this without so you laid it all out, but you laid it all out in your conditioning, in the way that you view the world, through the lens of, I either have time freedom or I have money. You just laid it out like that. So now you're going to get more of that. So the
Mhm.
surrender is, I want something different and I have no idea how I'm going to make that happen. And you know what? I don't need to know how. I get to play with all of the ways that it could happen. And I trust that I'm supported, that the things that fall away for a reason. And I trust that the things that come to me, I look for, what's the message? What is what is this teaching me? And surrendering to that process has been life-changing for me and my clients.
Mhm.
And it was interesting seeing people come in who were very successful, but the surrender part just wasn't there. And that fear of, if I don't do it this way, it's all going to fall apart. It's all going to go away. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you think about it that way, then yes, that's exactly how it will happen. But if you surrender to it and you say, no, I trust that if I want something better, that better is there and available to me,
Mhm.
and I'm supported in it. That 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 feeling of support is so important.
Yes. Yes. And I think what's so good too is you're like, I've gotten here this way, but like that seed is planted. There has to be another way. But then instead of letting that stress you out, which I think initially it does, because if we're like, but it's not like this, then how is there another way? But to get curious and playful with it instead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know, to learn what I know this way now. I want to learn what other ways there are to get to this result in an easier way.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because what I'm hearing there and kind of what's coming through for me there is, because that's the energetic part. It's not doing the thing. We could all stop working, but some of us, things will go fine and the path will appear. And then some people, it will all come crashing down. And it's that the difference is not necessarily anything that they've built. It's the energy that you're in. Are you looking at it where, like, I have a client who will trust for a time, but then, and I know it because of the Voxer messages that come, and we get the questions. And my biggest thing with a lot of people is coaching them through, you're putting yourself in fearful energy because you're worrying about the surrender isn't going to work.
Mhm.
You're not actually surrendering then.
Mhm.
You're in the energy of fear. You're in the energy of lack. And I get it. This is the hardest part. but
That's hard.
it's the watch pot never boils. Is it there
Yeah.
yet? Is it there yet? Is it there yet? That
Yeah.
ain't surrender.
For me, it's funny. So it's fall now. And I was driving on Monday and I was like, my brand colors are fall. I was like, fall is just such a beautiful visual for me of surrender,
Mm.
because the leaves change and so it's these beautiful colors and the trees are like, I'm gonna be naked, but it's okay. Winter's gonna come, but it's okay. It's gonna be a hard few months, but it's okay. I'm gonna get stronger. I'm gonna ground deeper. I'm gonna anchor deeper. And it's just such a beautiful visual, because I think at first the word surrender was like, what the freak do I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And you meditate and you get to your center and you get those words, surrender, trust. You're like, thank you. What do I do with that? But it really is that simple. And
Do you,
sometimes I feel like people say they don't see it. I'm like, mm, they're just not conditioned to seeing it. But the universe co-creates with you. I mean, the universe wants to
yeah.
co-create with you. The signs are there, but we're not conditioned to notice it. And this is why I love the healings too, because I can help peel back those filters, and we can
Yeah.
really get into beliefs and things that you've accumulated that we can start getting rid of, so that you are more connected to yourself, because we have all the answers. And this is another thing, I think, like we look to other people for our solutions. This person is going to help me succeed. This person will help me get more confidence. This is
Mm-hmm.
the person that's going to help me structure my business. And yes, you can get those people with their expertise to help you, but you actually have everything inside of yourself. All the answers are within you. We just need to learn how to re-listen again, like tune in again.
Yeah. And that personally for me, that's part of what I love human design for, is it puts the power not in your mind, but in your body. It gets you listening to an unconditioned response and following what doesn't make sense. It's like, if it tells you, like, if going for a walk in the middle of the day when you have a deadline feels like the right thing to do, then trust that. I know it doesn't feel like that, like, your mind is telling you that that's crazy, that
Yeah.
you have stuff to do, but trust it. And I mean, I've had that happen a million times, where I've gone and I've given myself that break, and I've done exactly I've gone where my sacral guided me to, and whatever answer I was asking for dropped in, or something happened while I was doing that thing that didn't make sense, that made everything make sense, that was
Yeah.
not making sense in that moment before it. And that's the magic of it. And that's the part that helped me surrender and trust so much more, because I was like, I'm not alone. I am being communicated with. I am being spoken to. The messages are there. Now I'm learning to listen.
Yeah. And we're never alone. I think when that happens, like, go take the walk, go do this thing that feels impossible right now. We need a pattern interrupt. And that's the easiest way for source to say, you're not going to force the answer right now. You're not going to get it in your
Mm-hmm.
head. You're not in your body. You're completely cut off from your body. You're not even breathing correctly, because you're sitting there trying to will the answer to come. And the hardest part is actually to get up and go for the walk, or do the thing that you don't want to do, because you're like, I don't have the time. But you make up that time, because the feelings, the ideas that drop are so much simpler and easier, and they feel so much better. So if you do actually listen to those cues, I feel like it always not pays dividends, but you know what I mean? Like, it always pays for itself so much more than forcing yourself to sit, in that energy of, I have to do this right now.
I look at it like, and particularly, so if you're a generator or a manifesting generator, this is especially true for you just because your sacral will not only not help, and you're missing out on, like I've talked on here about, like I've named mine, her name is Julie, my sacral. And Julie and I are like the most dynamic duo when we work together. It's magic. And whenever I do anything without Julie, it sucks. And it's really hard and I'm no good at it and it doesn't turn out well and I'm angry and I'm behind and it doesn't work well. And I look at it now like I'm punishing myself when I'm working against it. It's almost like, because you actually, so the sacral is the most powerful motor in the body graph. It's the most powerful motor in the body. And we have consistent access to it if you turn it on. And if you don't turn it on, yes, you can access the energy of it, meaning you can, and this is why generators and manigens, we have the ability to power through, particularly if you have another motor center, like you have, Nicholette, you have your ego defined. You can work out of your ego, like the energy is there. Is it going to be efficient and comfortable and probably give you your best work product? No, because you're actually, that's not meant to do all of the work. The ego is, that's not the work it's meant to do. It's not the type of energy it's meant to provide. And the sacral, you're actually degrading the motor. So when the sacral's on and it's like, I want to work on this thing with you, it will create more energy and give you more energy to do that thing. And it will keep going and going and going until it's like, okay, we've had enough. And the sacral knows when it's had enough, like, okay, it's time to rest now, but that was awesome. Let's do it again tomorrow. But when we don't turn it on, then, and we are, it's like grinding the gears of the car. Like you're degrading that motor, you're degrading the transmission. You are, you're killing it effectively. If you do it for too long, it's why we burn out, because you're ruining this beautiful sacral motor that you have. You're abusing it. And I'm so like that, when we come with that energy of like, I look at it like I'm torturing myself, and I'm long term, I'm doing damage when I work in that space. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, like sometimes I forget and I'm doing something. I'm like, why am I forcing this?
Yes. Why am I doing this?
Silly girl. Let me go and light myself up. What would feel good right now? And I'm just going to sit here until something moves me to do something else. And that is like, that is a magical gift that I give myself, and all the work that I do. It comes out so much better when I follow that strategy and follow my authority. I wanted to ask you, how is being a 6'3" affected? Because it's an interesting profile. It's not that it's so much that it's necessarily rare, but it is, it can be very powerful and very challenging. And I'm curious, like how has your relationship been with it? And I know we've discussed this a little bit, but I'd love for you to share here.
Oh, you said it's an interesting profile. So I want to know from you first why that's such an interesting profile. But I've just learned a lot about, I feel like I understand myself a whole lot better. But I want to hear from you first.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 6'3", why I find it interesting, because anybody who has a 6 in their profile line goes through three stages. And effectively, from the age of, so from the time you're born until you're 30 years old, you're in your first phase, which technically you're a 3.
Yes.
Because you're a 3 maturing, and that's how you get to the 6th stage. And so effectively why I consider it interesting is you're 2 3s, basically, both consciously and unconsciously, at the same time. And this is a harmonious line. So like the 6 and the 3, sometimes we have like my 5 and my 1 are, it's not what we call harmonious, meaning they're different energies. So one can pull in another direction. There can be a bit of infighting, I guess, between the two lines. Whereas like the 6'3" being harmonious, it does, they speak the same language. they literally are the same for the first 30 years of your life. So you go through that first 30 years where, you're operating like 2 3s, which means that like consciously and unconsciously, you're having all of these trial and error experiences. Life's bumping into you, you're bumping into life, things are happening. And hopefully you're in a supportive environment where you're taught that failure is part of your process, that you're going to try things and some things are going to go great and some things aren't, and you don't care which happens because you're learning all the time, and it's you're constantly evolving. And then you hit that 30 years old, and then suddenly you're in this 30 to 50 stage, your Saturn return, and you are in what we call, you're on the roof. So you've been messing around in life and you've been bumping into life, and you're in it with everybody, you're in the weeds. And then you climb on top of the house and you say like, I'm tired now. I'm going to go and sit on top of the roof and watch y'all and learn that way. And I'm going to observe, and I'm going to be the observer.
Mhm.
And you do that for 20 years,
Mhm.
all while you have, and this is what I mean, where, so you're observing, but that 3 in your body side still exists. That 3 that wants to break things, that 3 that wants to like get in there, get messy, get dirty, try things. But now you have this other side of you that's like, let's not do that. Can we just watch? And like, I need a break. And I'm just sort of checking things out from up here. So you have these 2 things now that they're still the same energy, but one kind of wants to do one thing while the other is like, why are you such a scaredy pants now? Like, let's go mess it up. That's how we, that's how we do, and I mean that in the best possible. My husband is a 3/5, and that man lives the 3 in all of its ways, and he's an incredibly aligned person. And I know a lot of 3s who are like that, where they're just, my niece is like that, where she's like, I want to learn how to do a back handspring. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it until I get it. Just has that energy to her. Whereas like, if you're a 5/1 like me, you're like, no, I'm gonna like read about it and think about it and get really, really clear on it. And then I'll try it. And then, and if I fail, I'm probably going to feel like a failure and think that everybody hates me and I'm going to run away. Um, in the lower expression of it. And then the last, when you get to 50 years old, then you go into your role model stage, where you truly step into being the role model. And that 6 stages where you're like, I've been there, I've done it all. I've been in the weeds with y'all, and I've tried it all, and I've seen it all, and I've observed things from a really high vantage point, where I've learned a lot from my point of view that many people can't see. And now I'm at this next stage where I'm ready to share all of my findings with you here. And now people come to you and they just feel that role model thing, where they're just like, I feel like you can lead me somewhere. I don't know where, but I
Yeah.
trust you. There's a deep trust with the 6. The 6 is, particularly with the 6 in the front, there's just this feeling of like, I trust that you're going to take me somewhere good and that you have things to teach me. So
Mhm.
yeah, open up. However, so I consider it interesting because 6s, you move in those phases, so you change. It's the most evolutionary of the lines. And
Yeah.
a 6 inherently has all the lines in it. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. Like you have them all in there somewhere. And that's why you're kind of this entity of your own. So the 6s are always fascinating to me. And then the fact that you are 2 3s for 30 years of your life, I think is probably like, I look at that and I'm like, that must be wild. I'd love to try
Very wild. So wild. And we're all 3s in this household. So it's wild.
that.
I love combining human design with my work, because I'm like, we get to dive into the soul, but I love seeing what the human decided to lay out for themselves in this life.
Mm,
And so when my clients are like, but I want to do this and this, and it just brings so much, it's such a helpful tool for me to help them even
mhm.
understand why they do specific things. I didn't quite have, I think, someone who understood why I was that way. So I think from the outside looking in, it was like, man, you got to get it together. You are falling around. You're doing this, then you're doing that, then this. Like, just get a real job, just get some stability. Like, don't be so naive, don't be so dreamy, like, like do
Mm-hmm.
be normal. And I think now, knowing, I know that the trial and the error is my strength and not a failure. And even with my clients, when they're like, that didn't work, I'm a failure. I'm like, no, you're not. You just learned how to not do it. Now what's next? We get to keep going. It's not like it's a one and done thing. And I think that's what's great about being a 6 and a 3 is that we're just like, okay, that didn't work. Next. Okay, maybe that did work, but we can tweak this thing and then do this. Or maybe we need to incorporate this. Maybe I didn't follow my sacral. But it's like knowing yourself in this way, everything is like makes sense. And then it's like, I'm meant to work this way. I'm meant to get excited. Like we even said how the 6 has that 3-phase process and how they approach projects.
Mm-hmm.
But first we tried a few different things and then we observe a little and like what worked, what didn't work, maybe this piece, but we don't quite go as frantic, balls to the wall, trying all the thing. And then in the 3rd phase, we're like, this is how I'm going to do it. And that's the difference. But we can't get to that place, that confidence,
Mm-hmm.
without first trying all of the other things. And at first I was like, well, oh my gosh. So, when I first learned I was a 6-3, I'm like, who are 6-3s? I want to go see all the 6-3s. I want any 6-3s. Like, are we just sitting around for 20 years? Do we not get anything together until we're 50? I want to see
Right.
people who are successful in their businesses. And now I have so many 6s in my life. And I'm like, I get you. I get us. Like, wow, it's actually pretty cool.
6s are very successful. 6s are very successful. And there's like there's just a deep knowing about them. And you can have that from right from the beginning. Um, it's about that embracing the two sides. It's about embracing both stages that you're at and not letting one side feel left out or not nurturing it. So like, are you nurturing the side, the 3 that's like, I need to experience things. Like that's how I learn. That's how I grow. That's how I'm lit up. And
Mhm.
you'll be led to experiences through your sacral. Like the sacral is going to be, it's part of your design. So your sacral is going to be lit up by experiences. And
Yeah.
it's your strategy and authority that bring the design side, the unconscious and the conscious together. It's the voice of, because our personality is what we identify with. Like we're just like, yeah, that sounds like me. And then the body side, the design side, is the side that's like, it's quiet, it's underneath the surface. We may not be as in touch with that. So by virtue of that setup, literally doesn't have a voice with us. It's like our personality is like, don't listen to that, let's do it this way.
Yeah.
So making sure that unconscious 3 through your sacral yeses, it's leading you to experiences that your soul wants to have, that the universe is laying those breadcrumbs out for you, but it's going to be through experience. Like for me, I pick up, it's the research, it is the learning, it is the like deep depth of knowledge in my unconscious 1 line that I have to nurture. That foundational element of things and the creation of things has to be there. Whereas like the 3, you guys are like, I need to just do it.
Mhm.
I need to get in there, and it's about the experience. Without the experience, you don't get the magic.
Yes. I think too, what it made me realize is I'm meant to always grow and evolve and learn and want and have that desire to do it. Not because I feel like I don't know enough or I'm not enough, because it's fun for me. It's because how I grow. Melanie and Laris's growth and expansion over a lifetime. And
Mm,
it just clicks for me because it's like I'm not doing it because I feel like I need to learn more. I want to learn more. It's just how I am. I'm always going to be wanting to strive for more. And that doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for what I've achieved, but I'm lit up by what's the next step, how much more can I achieve. So I love that. And then another thing that we spoke about is I think that the 5 and 6, that their karma as is connected with other people, or how did you put that?
The 5 and the 6. So if you have a 5 or a 6 in the front of your profile, it's what we call a transpersonal profile, meaning that your karma, your destiny is, and your purpose are really only going to be found through connections with other people. They're connected with other souls. So we evolve through our connection with other souls, and we are here to help other souls evolve or do something. So it's why typically if you have a 5 or a 6 in front, you're going to be drawn out and to interact with people, to work with people. If there's part of you that wants to stay hidden, the part of you that's crying out saying you can't hide is the part saying we literally cannot fulfill our purpose. It's not about us. It's about all the people we touch. And while we can all have like, and I'm not saying if you have a more personal destiny that you can't help people, it's not going to be, your purpose can be fulfilled by yourself. Your purpose can be fulfilled by you just being who you are and going on your own personal evolution. If you have a 5 or a 6, it's so tied to the other people, meaning you affect other people
Mhm.
there are no coincidence meetings. There are no coincidence friendships. You are soul connected to the people that you meet. It's a much more direct connection.
Yeah, I love that. And in that, I think is your personal fulfillment, because every person has a nugget for you and you're for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. People are like always telling me, "Oh my gosh, can't believe I told you all that." I love that. And then,
You also have the 6. You also have gate 6, and you have that as your unconscious earth, which
okay,
is your purpose. And the gate 6 is the gate of friction. It's known as like the aura breaker, meaning that you have this ability, and by friction we mean, think about like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. It creates friction to make the hole to push its way out to get out. So it's good friction
yeah.
in its highest expression. Of course, we're always talking like there's always the chance that friction can go bad, but in its highest expression, we don't do that. I have 6 twice in my, and I have the whole channel here. So I understand this, where like people just feel very connected to you. You also have the 33, which is a very like connection gate as well. So you have 2 elements that people might be, where you break their aura, where you make your way in by just your presence and have the ability to open people up very quickly. I have similar things in my chart where people feel very close and connected very, very quickly.
It's like they can trust you. They can
Mm-hmm.
just say things. Yeah.
Yep. And that's a byproduct of just your energy. It's a byproduct of just the way that we're built. And and I love that you're doing work that, and that's, I think, what we get called to is we get called to call out as we live more in alignment. And I've heard people say, like, stop telling me that all I need is alignment to be successful. We have to do hard work. And it's like, yeah, you're being called, though. I believe alignment, the more you live in alignment, the more your gifts get called out.
Yes.
And the more your gifts get called out, the more you're using them. The more you're using them, the happier you are, the more useful and aligned you feel, where you're just like, oh, because I mean, how many people are out there saying like, I just want to know my purpose?
Oh,
And if,
every single person.
yes, everybody says that to some, like everyone feel like,
What?
I don't know what I'm here for. God, tell me the way. What's my path? I don't care how you ask it. We're all asking that question, like, what's my meaning here? Why? And it's often not a big bang of why. It just like people want to know their purpose. Like I can tell you your purpose, as it's written in your chart. I can tell you that, but it doesn't matter, because you can't chase the purpose. It's not the big bang of like, now I know my purpose, now I can be it. That's not how it works. You live in alignment and the purpose just starts to show up. It becomes who you are. And so it's the process of taking these steps, following what's right rather than what we should do, following like our correct process and what's right for us, that starts to activate every single thing that we have. And suddenly all of our stuff is being used. And then suddenly that purpose just shows up one day and you're like, oh my God, that thing that someone read to me in a reading is now like the life that I live.
Yeah.
I see it happening everywhere around me. And that's such a beautiful just result and way. I love that you're living that now. I love that you're like, I love how all of these things are kind of coming together for you. I think you're just this beautiful example of that arc. And just one last question I wanted to ask you. Did you consider yourself someone who lived in masculine energy before, or leaned more that way, or did you not really identify with that? I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. Very push, very
Mm-hmm.
structured. And it's a strength of mine because I can go up and be very feminine and play in the possibilities with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, what's next? And then I can be like, okay, here's the steps. How does this feel? Um, and so I can play in both.
Mm-hmm.
But what is beautiful is now that I'm able to, I embrace both, is I notice when my clients are stepping out of their alignment and I can bring them back and being like, just we can strategize, but let's make sure that we're following our strategy and not bringing anything in that you've not picked up from somewhere else, especially I think if people are the heads open, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that we stay true. And I think there's something to be said because I think you're masculine. Well, for most people who are super masculine and they go super feminine, but it's the marriage of both, and they really can coexist beautifully. And yeah, it's interesting that you asked that because I feel that's for a lot of people. They're like, okay, I don't want to push anymore. I don't want to be in this energy anymore, but I don't know the other way to be. And then we are the other way. And then we're like, okay, it's all flowy and wonderful. And I'm just going to sit back and let everything happen. And then you're like, okay, that's not the way either, but I don't want to lose this. Um, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we do have to go, like, just go and swim in that end of the pool for a while and just, and notice like what that difference is. Like, I got to go and like, I have to really dance that dance to understand what it's like, not just watch someone dance it, or, like, oh, I did it for like a minute and then now I'm back to this way. I'm back to the masculine. Because I think that that's what people do. We dip our toe in the feminine energy water and it's like, yeah, that's enough of that for me. But I agree completely on needing that balance in order to be successful. You need both.
Yeah.
So it's not so much like we would traditionally probably call it work-life balance, but it's not that. It's like a balance of your masculine and your feminine energies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's coming for me, is like, there's a deeper grounding, and the more grounded I am, the more strategic I can be without feeling like I lose any of the feminine flow.
Yes. This is what I love about my work. It's because we really do get to see what the soul, what the body, what the human is ready to heal and
Mm-hmm.
achieve in the business and what's off. And then it's like, okay, but how do we do with this? And it's like, how would you like to do it? What would feel good for you? And then we bring the strategy in, because then my clients are like, this. It's like, okay, it can be even easier. We take this step away and we do this and this. Yes, amazing. Okay. And then we go from there. And then we get stuck and then we heal and we bring the feminine flow in again. And we bring the energetics in and we tap in. Sometimes what we heal. So when we start working together, they're here and they want to go here. And it's the same thing, like I could think, and maybe it works this way because how I work, but we make progress and then we heal. We make progress this way, make progress this way. Like we bounce a lot, but it all comes together. Like we'll be speaking about their upcoming launch, and all of a sudden we're healing something on the side about a relationship, a family relationship that's so difficult. And it clears something up that they were particularly very stuck with in their business on an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing basis. And all of a sudden things are just open and clear and easy. And so sometimes I feel like my clients are like, no, let's do strategy today, but it's a specific healing session. I'm like, no, let's do the healing session. It's going to help you, but it's difficult to do that sometimes. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to cry today, but it's like you and you really do this internal work. It's like taking that break when you least want to do it. It's like it just frees you up and makes you feel more peaceful and grounded and connected, and it makes things fall into place that you've been trying to figure out in your head for so long, and you're like, I get it now. And that's just such an amazing feeling. I kind of like that's how you feel when you start understanding your design too. It's like, I'm not broken. I'm meant to
Yeah.
work this way. I'm meant to do these things. And with my experiences, if I had known that this was the thing that would help me connect with my clients, most of my clients have gone through something and I can understand it because I've either experienced it or someone really close to me has experienced it. And I'm like, I see now how this piece fell into place because I can
Mhm.
have compassion and I can give them the tools to, work through that. And it is
Beautiful.
a 3 and a 6, like keeping that in mind, like nothing happens without a reason for it. Like just trust your process, trust the experiences, trust all of it. It works out. It works in your favor.
Right. And the worst thing as a 3 that you can do is get focused on something that didn't go well and start beating yourself up or shying away from taking another jump because you're afraid of that past experience repeating itself. Like the worst thing that you can do is fall into that trap because that's you blocking your own process. So
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, that it does give you permission to trust yourself and trust that your way is the right way.
Yes.
Well, I love this. I'm so grateful to you for coming on. I appreciate you sharing so openly and just sharing your heart. I love you, and I'm so happy that everybody got to hear from you and got to meet you. So, where can they stay in touch with you? How can they learn more about you, what you do, and hear more about all the things Nicholette?
Thank you, my friend. It's always so fun to chat with you. I am the passive income agency.co, and I'm also the passive income agency on Instagram. So those are the two easiest ways to get hold of me.
Beautiful. Well, we'll link all of that up in the show notes for you. Yes, so Nicholette still offers designs and all sorts of strategic things, but also she offers these amazing healing sessions that I highly recommend you taking her up on. She's helped me come through some really, really things I didn't even know were there. Things I knew they were there. I saw the result of them, but I had no idea where they were coming from until I worked with her, and we moved a lot of stuff very, very quickly. So I encourage you to go check that out and follow her definitely over on Instagram because she's always sharing such beautiful stuff. Thank you for being here, Nicholette.
Thank
And
you, my friend.
thank you, listener, for making it all the way to the end of this conversation with us and being a part of it. We appreciate you. Remember, you're only limited by the limitations that you accept. And when you stop accepting those limitations, that is when you become limitless. So go out there and be limitless, my people. I will see you in the next one. If you loved this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you want to stay in touch with us, we would love to have you as a part of our Facebook community, Practical Manifestors. It's a community for process-driven women looking for clear and actionable steps to embodying a life of wealth and alignment. Join us at Practical Manifestors in Facebook or go to www.innerceogroup.com.